There are domestic flights, and then there are 7+ hour domestic flights. Ones that truly feel like you're going someplace international, yet you're not. The United States has some of the world's longest domestic flights due to its massive size, and today I'll be on one of those. It's time to fly to Alaska on United Airlines from Newark, New Jersey in economy. Now, when I say one of those, clearly a 7-hour flight doesn't even come close to those East Coast Hawaii routes, which top 11 hours. But in terms of Alaska, this will be quite a long domestic flight on the flying pencil. To put into perspective, United flies the 757 from Newark to Dublin in about the same amount of time as this flight, so it'll surely feel pretty long. Now, unlike about a year before this was shot, Newark Airport is now busy once again, and getting even busier nowadays. United Airlines operates one of their largest hubs here at EWR, connecting passengers from all over the world, or in my case, meeting up with my friend Justin, who just arrived in from DC, me from Pittsburgh, and heading on this next transcontinental flight. Since my connection time was very short, and knowing Newark's concessions take forever to make food, time I didn't have to wait, I quickly grabbed a breakfast sandwich from Starbucks just to get some food for the flight, because I had a feeling United would not serve anything on the plane. N19136 would be my Alaska ride this afternoon from gate C90. At the time this was shot, a 22-and-a-half-year-old Boeing 757-200, which originally flew for Continental Airlines until 2010.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Carlo, how are you?
Welcome.
The interesting thing about the 757 is typically you'll always board from the second door, which is exactly what we did today. Up front, not shown, is United's Polaris First Class section, which consists on this plane of 16 lie-flat seats. Back here are 45 Economy Plus seats and 108 Economy seats. This cabin immediately when stepping aboard feels very tired and needing of an upgrade desperately. Justin and I will be in the second to last row today, 39A for me. Going along the lines of this cabin feeling old, what really brings that out is the small overhead bins, the classic overhead light and air vent controls, the lighting, and these seats. While there are adjustable headrests, the rest of the seat really isn't that comfortable, especially when the hours rack up. Padding is very limited, legroom is also quite limited, even if it doesn't look like it. On the seat back is a pocket down below with the safety card and in-flight magazine residing inside. As shown on this tray table, power outlets are available down below, and they are universal. Up top is a personal TV monitor at every seat, and while it's not JetBlue E190 old, like the rest of this cabin, it's looking a little dated. Everyone received a hand sanitizing wipe upon boarding, something United still continues to do even in 2022. And speaking of everyone, every single seat on this 757 is taken today, so boy are we in for a long ride to Anchorage.
We're excited to have you aboard, and we appreciate your attention as we demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft. FAA regulation.
As my gut told me before boarding, or rather the gate agent when I asked her, there will not be any meal services on this flight for economy, both free and paid for. The only food items we'll get is some snacks, the first of the services about to come through right now. At the time this was shot, United still handed out these COVID bags, but that has now been eliminated. They consisted of a pack of pretzels, a few Biscoff cookies or a stroopwafel, and a small water bottle. On top of these plastic bags though, FAs did also pass through with a drink selection service offering sodas, juices, water, hot coffee, and tea. Knowing me, I opted for some hot tea with milk and sugar. In my opinion, it always goes great with either the Biscoff cookies or the stroopwafels. Thankfully, there will be one more service later on because that Starbucks breakfast sandwich and Biscoff cookies aren't going to hold me. But like I said, no buy on board food was available throughout the flight. An interesting thing about the 757, or at least this route, is there's a small section in the back here curtained off for flight attendants to get some rest. Since the scenery right now is not good outside, and pretty cloudy, I will show you guys what United has to offer on their IFE system. A flight map is provided, not interactive, but it still is better than most of their other fleet. Some flight info is also available once the system decides to switch to it. As you would expect, there are movies, TV shows, games, music, and kids content to watch on board. Since this is an older system and monitor, the responsiveness is pretty slow though. You just gotta give it a few seconds at least. And, wait a minute. What is this? Blue's Clues? One of my favorite childhood shows? Oh my... Who the f*** is this guy? Anyway, continuing with the tour, movies are categorized into different genres like so, along with the audio and music selections. As I said, not the best system by any stretch, but it's better than having nothing at all. Okay, we're now out over Western Ontario. Let's see if the scenery is there yet. And no. So, time for a look at the lavatory. Surprisingly, or I guess maybe not, the bathroom on board the 757 is not tight. It's definitely still small, but there's enough space at least to move around a little. It also certainly looks every bit of those 22 years this plane's been in service, with small hints like the flush handle and larger hints like the stainless steel sink, looking more like an Amtrak train lav than a modern day airplane one. While back in the galley, I talked a bit with one of the flight attendants back there, a really nice guy who gave me a few stroopwafels. I asked him about the lack of any food offerings on this over 7-hour flight, and at first he told me why I didn't buy enough food beforehand, but after explaining how I make these videos, he said because of COVID they weren't offering any free or buy on board meals, but that they were coming back relatively soon. And I can confirm things are pretty much all back in 2022 now. United's in-flight magazine is called Hemispheres, located in the seat back pocket. Unlike American, they brought it back, are keeping it, and apparently found a way to permanently disinfect magazines. The menu of what's offered and not offered on board can be found in this magazine. I hate to say it, but even if they did offer food, it probably wouldn't be something you'd expect, but rather more snacks. As United is part of Star Alliance, the members are also shown in Hemispheres, along with their destination maps and other such things, this issue highlighting the state of Virginia. As the time ticked away and the hours stacked up, a combination of the seat not being comfy, it not having enough legroom for 6-foot me, my backpack under the seat in front of me, and a random stranger sleeping the entire flight to my right, the ride was quickly becoming very uncomfortable. I'm gonna guess most people were also starting to feel it. Nearing Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, nearly 5 hours into the flight attendants decided to come through with a second drink service, along with more pretzels, stroopwafels, and water. I also got another hot tea with cream and sugar, and now that I have some stroopwafels, time to do the honors. I'm not kidding when I tell you, if you do happen to get a stroopwafel on United, you must try this. Finally, once this last service was complete, the clouds gave way and the ground became visible just in time to see the best scenery on the flight. Guys, Alaska, quickly becoming one of my favorite states, if not my most favorite. As I began watching a particular 90s hit show set in my future new home on the PTV in front of me, I should mention you can also watch entertainment on any mobile device, just like on United jets without monitors. Click United Wi-Fi in settings, and you should be good to go. If nothing pops up, just type into the browser unitedwifi.com, and then you'll get this homepage. Here is where you can also purchase Wi-Fi for the flight, which was $19 for this particular route, as well as see weather info and another flight map. Eventually, like I said, we crossed back over into the US from Canada and began descending through some gorgeous glaciers, snow-capped mountains, lakes, streams, rivers, valleys, hills, you name it, until we reached the Anchorage area. While the Alaska Milk Run, I think, definitely has the best views from the air, mostly because those flights are so close to the ground. With this approach being so clear, we definitely retreated to some pretty sick views.
Take a train ride just to see you. Ride for hours just to please you. You don't know how much I need you, 'cause you're my home.
After over 7 hours in the air, we're now finally here, and I'm back in Alaska. For some reason, I guess stupidly, I had my expectations for this flight a little higher than I usually would for United, and because of that, they just weren't met. I know I didn't sit in first class, but I don't know, I guess I expected there to be a slightly upgraded service in economy for such a long route. And even if you're not going to serve meals on board complimentary, at least provide a buy on board option. I know this wasn't the flight attendant's fault, and they certainly tried to accommodate for that by handing out plenty of snacks and drinks throughout. As far as cabin ambience per se and hard product, from an aviation enthusiast perspective, I loved getting to fly the 757 all the way across North America, but from a comfort perspective, that's where the problems arise. There's no beating around the bush. If the plane is totally packed, and you're a taller person like me, leg stiffness will settle in quickly, and you'd better hope your seatmates like to get up a lot. Even though the personal monitors were a little slow on responsiveness, they were definitely much appreciated, and I used mine almost throughout the entire flight. Lastly, of course, is the scenery, and that was just spectacular for the past hour or two. Overall, not a terrible experience, but definitely and certainly not something I would rave about, and I'm hoping nowadays United has fixed the food issues on this cross-country route. And we're back in Anchorage, or I'm back in Anchorage, landing here and seeing all the mountains go by with all the snowpack and the glaciers. It just reminded me of last year's milk run, and this state really is my favorite state in the US. It's so beautiful. I miss this place. The biggest difference between this trip and my milk run trip a year prior was all Alaska's COVID testing procedures were finally axed, so the arrivals process was much smoother than last time, and we could just walk right on out, as neither of us had any checked bags. The 757, it was really cool to fly the flying pencil. The only thing is, it is very cramped and it does feel old, but the scenery and the crew actually really made the flight happen. I'd say good job, United, but Alaska will always make a crappy flight better. Get you at the hotel, where we would stay the night before heading up to Barrow in the morning. There was a woman that came into the hotel kind of angry, and she said she stopped at 6 hotels and they all were full. Definitely picking up again, which is good news for travel and aviation. Anyway, we're now staying at the Fairfield, which is right across from the Crown Plaza, which
you stayed at last year, right?
Which is right in between, like the sidewalk in between is where I started the milk run video, so it's kind of weird. Hey guys, we just walked in this restaurant called Bear Paw and Grill. When in Alaska, you eat seafood. Yeah, I got pulled pork. Well, that'll do it guys for this vid. Tomorrow would be one of the most exciting and surreal days for me in my life. For now, it was time to hit the sack. With daylight still sticking around, even close to midnight up here. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and catch ya on the next one.